Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another morning, afternoon, or perhaps evening meditation with Caverly Morgan. My name's Janice Martolucci, and I am delighted to get to welcome you today and introduce Caverly, as well as, if you're brand new, tell you just a little bit about this platform, Sangha Live. So Sangha Live is an incredible platform. For the last 5 years, Sangha Live has been offering weekly sessions every Sunday. And this includes teachers from all over. Sangha Live's mission is really to spread these teachings and make them accessible to all. In addition to weekly sessions, Sangha Live also does more in-depth courses as well. All that content's available on the website. And, it's one of the exciting things about it is there's just people from all over the world. You can check out the chat box and let folks know where you're tuning in from this morning. It's a really beautiful community here. Before I introduce Caverly, I also want to just take a moment to say that this platform is possible because of the generosity of others. So if you are in a position where you can support this platform, please check out the green button below the video, the offer donation, or the Dana button. And it's through folks giving Dana this mutual support that these teachings are able to reach so many. So please consider supporting that if you can. And just know if financial support right now is not an option for you, that is no problem at all. That's why this platform is here. We want people to receive these teachings no matter what. And your presence, your participation is incredible support as well. So this morning and this whole week, Caverly has been offering morning meditations and a little bit of Q&A afterwards. So I'd like to introduce her. Caverly Morgan is the founder and head of practice at Peace in Schools, which is a nonprofit located in Portland, Oregon, that launched the country, United States' first for-credit mindfulness class in public high schools, and continues to work throughout the public school system in Portland. In addition to Peace in Schools, Caverly also launched Presence Collective, which is a growing community of meditation teachers from all over. So she's doing work in the world, spreading these teachings in a variety of ways. And Caverly, I'd love to bring you on screen now. There she is. Good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your service. Thank you. And thank you to Jake, who's in the background. Thanks to someone mentioning, giving a little applause to Sangha Live on the side there. It's always good to thank the people who are working so tirelessly in the background. It's always good for all of us. Yeah, to express gratitude. So I express gratitude to you, Janice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to the meditation.
And much gratitude to you for showing up today. I've mentioned regularly how much I'm enjoying gathering in this way. This morning is no exception. Very grateful to be here. I'd love to first thank you for writing in, saying hello, saying where you're from. It's always nice to see where folks are joining us from. And if you would now, please give a word or a phrase, anything that's alive for you, anything that you're aware of in your practice in this moment. What are you present to right now? What is there to name about where we are in this moment? Fear, freedom of mind, anxious and restless, spaciousness, distraction, hopeful. I always think it's so important to recognize the variety of experience we're having. Concerned, anticipation, beauty, space, gratitude, sadness, a lot of people dying and suffering, sadness and concern, fear, uncertainty, delight, regretful, being challenged but not triggered. Really useful clarification. Change. All right, thank you, friends. Hope. Uncertainty and uncertainty. Alice and Caroline, thank you. Grief. So as we move into this morning's meditation, thank you for naming those experiences. A useful starting point for practice, naming what's here now. I'm going to ring a bell and we'll sit together for half an hour. I invite you to sit in a way that you would sit in a Dharma hall. Know that if your back's bothering you and you need to be horizontal for this meditation, that's fine too. Let's begin this meditation by extending kindness to the body. Yesterday we were speaking about the relative and the absolute realms of experience. Being in the body is a relative plane experience. And there's an important reality to that experience. So notice sensation. Notice sensation in the feet and the ankles. Notice sensation in the lower legs. Lovingly attend to sensation in the knees and the upper legs. Attend to the sensation through the pelvic bowl, the sit bones, abdomen, sensation through the mid-torso, mid-back, notice the sensation in the shoulder blades, the collarbones, sensations through the arms, upper arms, elbows, lower arms, wrists and hands. Attend to the sensation in your neck, noticing the front, the back, the sides of the neck. And then the sensation in the head. Rather than experiencing this sensation as limited by the body, visualize this sensation. See this sensation as floating. In spacious awareness. We're not imagining this in the way that a child imagines some made-up fictional experience. We're actually applying our imagination to touch reality, the reality that's revealed when we're not feeding the habitual story of body, body as contained, limited, separate. See the breath not simply as something that moves in and out of the nose or mouth, fills this limited form of body, releases from this limited form of body, but rather as a pulsation, a rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat in this vast open field of awareness. If you share a home or an apartment space with someone else, now in your mind's eye, touch their rhythmic pulse. So rather than thinking, my husband's body is downstairs and visualizing his form, I'm turning the attention to another rhythm, another pulsing. Close by. soften your experience of walls, boundaries that would make it such that perhaps you have a conditioned story that you can't access that experience because it's in another room. In my case, I have 2 four-legged friends that share this home. So one by one, I'm now tuning into their rhythm, their pulsing breath. Remember, not limited to the visual of their body, just another frequency, another pulsation, another modulation of consciousness. Turning your attention. If you live alone, extend now, touch the pulsing of a neighbor, however far away that neighbor may be. And now extend the attention to these other pulsations. Perhaps those that live farther down the street. In the next apartment building over, or the next neighborhood over, or the next farm over. Remember, we're all in a variety of contexts, but this application of the imagination is the same, just extending out to touch another rhythm, another pulsing modulation of awareness. Notice the consistency of your own pulsing. It's relying upon that. Resting into that. Now let the attention extend even farther. Releasing the attachment we have to seeing bodies as separate forms and just touching with our formless awareness, touching with this formless awareness that doesn't belong singularly to us. Allowing that awareness to touch these other pulsing rhythms, movement of breath throughout your town or city. So feeling these pulsing rhythms, all free from the limitations of confined bodies. So touching this magnificent chorus of rhythm, patterns of movement, united. Now, rather than attending to any specific rhythms or patterns, including your own, just resting in the awareness that is conscious of these modulations. Recognizing that again, as I rest in quote unquote my awareness, it's not mine at all. This awareness, no different than quote unquote your awareness. So all of us together, resting in the same indivisible, undivided, whole consciousness. Resting together in our shared being. Thank you, friends. Please take a moment to stretch and move. Patricia, you asked, how long did we sit for? We sat for half an hour. But in the same way that we create this form that we call body, we create time. We meaning through the lens of the mind of limitation. These forms are created, so we sat for an eternity. So friends, I invite you now to support Sangha Live if you haven't yet today. You could also do it at the end of the call. Just a reminder, the button is right below the little green button. Thank you. We really can't continue without community support. And we understand if you're in a position right now in which that's not possible. So always finding balance on that front. So eternity, not as... So I'll say this, the infinite, not as the opposite of the finite. Timeless, not as the opposite of time. Ever present. Eternal now. That's where we're resting as we practice together. Now, not as a tiny point on a line of time with past, behind, future, ahead, but ever present now. Open the infinite now. Resting there collectively as we move through. Actually, better said, as everything that's arising moves through us, this infinite now. So I'd love to open it up for discussion. Those who've been joining me every morning know that I always invite folks to come on the screen. I feel like we should become some kind of game show where someone can get a big prize like balloons and confetti if they're the first one to come on screen. No one's taken me up on it yet. If you want to come on the screen, you can just write something in the chat box. It's not required, of course. What I usually do is just look to the question box or to the sidebar. So please type in there if you have anything you'd like to say or ask or contribute. Patricia, you say, I wish I could hear them. You'll have to say more. I'm not sure who you're referring to, so let us know. What are you present to now? What's alive now? The 7th day of experimenting with sitting meditation. I'm so grateful for some guidance. Great. So yes, Sue, I just placed which Sue this is. So Sue, you've been experimenting with different kinds of meditations, laying down, sitting, exploring. So wonderful. I'm glad that that exploration is continuing. And thanks for putting experimenting in quotes, just highlighting that it's all an experiment. Everything in our experience will enlighten us if we allow it to. Thank you. Evelyn, I hope I'm saying your name right, is being present the same as being aware? Yes, you could use those things interchangeably. I would just caution this. Watch for any tendency to say, I am being present, and for then to have some sense of ownership over that experience. So in the same way that I said, this awareness is something we're all sharing. This shared beingness is a shared experience. The conditioned mind, or the mind of limitation, imposes limitation, separateness. So watch for any tendency to think I am being present means I, this limited, separate self, is being present. Notice what shifts when you, for example, consider I am awareness. I'd be curious to see what happens for you, Evelyn, with that shifting. This isn't just semantics. I am presence is different than I am being present and I'm either good at it or bad at it, or just to play with. Okay, Patricia, you said there is no sound. I thought we were still meditating. So there must be a technical issue on your end. Yeah, you may want to refresh your browser. Sandy, how can I better meet extremely intense negative energy in others that I react to? Thank you for that question. One thing that arises, Evelyn, thank you. One thing that arises for me with that question is, I like to first ask myself, what am I projecting? Just because I'm projecting something doesn't mean it's an inaccurate projection. So, just this morning, someone I've been in communication with had an exchange with me, and I projected that they were coming from a closed-hearted place in the text. Not dramatically so, just that's what I projected into the exchange. Often we're projecting an experience we're having ourselves. So certainly I think it's useful to use this tool, this awareness practice tool of projection, to see, well, am I coming from a closed-hearted place, or am I receiving this from a closed-hearted place? What is this projection about here? And one thing that I find so useful about that tool is that it allows us to take ownership of something that we can affect. I can affect whether, as I receive this information, I'm in a closed-hearted place. So my question for you would be, what is there to see about the projection in this seeing of negative energy? Again, just because you're projecting it doesn't mean it's not true that there's a lot of negative energy out there. But start with what's happening here. May be that I wasn't experiencing negativity here, but the negativity that's here isn't being recognized, so I'm projecting it out there and then wanting to keep it out there so that I can have a barrier. I can continue to perceive that I'm separate from it. So again, this would be an exchange where it's much easier if I can dialogue with you. But without that, I would say that it can be useful to look at the projection. And then from there, I'm actually going to read the language of your question again. Extremely intense negative energy in others that I react to. So your question is beautifully framed, because the piece that you can take full responsibility for is the react to. If my neighbor is playing loud music that is not music that I'm drawn to, my reaction to that, my conditioned reaction, is likely quite different than if my neighbor is standing on her porch screaming curse words in the same sentence that she's using my name. So attacking me verbally. So pay attention to the reaction. Someone on the sidebar this morning typed in challenging, but not necessarily triggering. We're pointing to the difference between a conditioned reaction and a challenge. We're in a global challenge experience together. So I would encourage an attention on the tool of projection and then attending to experience of reactivity. Thank you so much, Sandy. I hope that was useful. Michael, can you speak more to infinite and finite not being opposites? Oh, this is from Sharon, so I'm not sure who Michael is in relationship to this, but I'll address it. Sharon, thanks for writing in. So when I'm speaking about, let's use time, for example. Time is a creation that arises in timelessness. When we identify with the experience of perceiving ourselves to be separate from life, time feels real. But that experience isn't the opposite of timelessness. It's arising in, time is not the opposite of timelessness. That experience of time is arising in the openness of timelessness. Another way we could talk about this is the infinite mind, infinite awareness has to assume the limitations of the finite mind in order to know the world in the way that the finite mind knows the world. But that finite mind arises in infinite mind, large mind. Small mind arises in large mind. It's not outside large mind, in opposition to it. The ego is the activity of consciousness. It's not something outside consciousness that's the opposite. Oh, I see, Sharon. That's your boyfriend, and that was his question. Thank you. And thank you, Michael. All right, Julian, would you say that maintaining contact with the present quality of presence throughout the day could already be giving back? Would you say that maintaining contact with the present quality of presence throughout the day could already be giving back? Julian, in resting in presence, in recognizing ourselves as presence, all giving and receiving arises. All giving and receiving is here. So absolutely, we're giving, we're receiving by resting as ourselves. Feel the difference. Imagine with me now, if you would, Julian, feel the difference between I am a separate self that is trying to give or help someone else, and I'm viewing that person as other. That has a very different quality than what this morning's meditation was pointing to, for example. I hope that resonates. Thank you, Julian. Let us know. Martin, I have found it extremely hard to meet my experience without judgment. For example, when I'm stuck in thought and strong emotions. Yes, I like to, and I did not create this. I believe many people quote the Buddha as the first one that talked about the second arrow. So there's the first arrow, and then there's the second layer. So there's a difficult situation or a strong emotion. The judgment is a second arrow. It can even be judgment of judgment. Why are you always so judgmental? Why can't you be more Zen? That's just the second layer. So it's incredibly important, Martin, that you can see that second layer. Without seeing it, as you know, I speak a lot about, what we are unconscious to silently governs us. So notice, continue to attend to that second layer. Often I'll use the image of if someone you loved, particularly perhaps a small child that you love, a child that's in your life. If the child that you loved was hearing an internal voice of judgment over having cried because she spilled her milk. Notice that you'd immediately recognize how unhelpful that is and how unkind that is and how unnecessary, how little is accomplished. So attend to this conditioned habit. That's all it is a conditioned habit for judgment to be at the driver's seat. Every time it arises is an opportunity to see who's being judged, what part of Martin is being judged. That aspect of the personality, if you will, is longing for your loving attention, the loving attention that belongs to compassionate awareness. So simply notice the judgment and return to that person, if you will. Again, we're creating this person. It's a form that we're using just to access compassionate awareness that is, not something we have to create. Judgment is a creation arising on behalf of the conditioned mind. Use that judgment as a reminder, as a flag to return to reality. Thank you, Martin, so much for writing in. And then finally, Sandy, my question was prompted by your having us visualize others in our home. I want to cultivate more peace with the other in my home rather than reactivity and blemish picking, as you touched on about clothes around the house yesterday. Yes, Sandy, thank you for acknowledging that. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be practicing meeting others from the recognition of who we are, showing up for others from that recognition, ultimately the recognition that there are no others. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much. I see that there's one more question that I haven't addressed. I'll copy, paste it, and bring it into tomorrow's call. Thank you for those that have headed off to work and said your goodbyes. Appreciate you being here so very, very much. Thank you for showing up. Please join us tomorrow. Same time, same place, which is a non-place. Such a good example right now, this virtual experience of gathering together. Such a good example of how created the form of separation is. Here we are together, yet totally, apparently far apart. Thank you. See you soon. Remember to donate if you can.